You were talking. What'd you want me to do? Interrupt?
Well, I mean, that's normal.
Welcome to this episode of The Marriage Creative. We are a happy family with one really big story, and we want to help you grow, strengthen, and rekindle your marriage.
Welcome into Season 2, Episode 1 of The Marriage Creative Show. I'm Caleb Nelson, and that's my wife,
Carla.
That's the big radio intro. Official. We're going to call this the first episode of the second season.
Okay.
The delineation changing there in the labeling.
I mean, we're changing our format.
I don't have my buttons.
Good.
But we can change it. What kind of format change we need?
I don't know. I was just asking.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
I'll talk. No.
That's virtually the entire first season.
Okay, well then you talk.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just joking.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, earlier today I was thinking about thinking versus feeling.
Okay.
And I've been actually thinking about that a lot because over the last year I've dealt with a lot of feeling. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you have too. And just listening to some really good stuff, been a part of some really good training this week. And it just really got me going down that road. Then I stopped by the salon today. A couple of different times, actually, I was there, which was kind of abnormal. But while I was there, just listening to the conversation of the clients with each other and then, between you and the chair and whatever, it just reminded me how much time people spend thinking about stuff that may or may not matter, more than likely doesn't, and then how that can really affect their feelings. Mm-hmm. Because I guess what I'm saying is...
As a man thinketh, so is he.
Yeah, the social media aspects, most especially the Chinese infiltration with TikTok, there I said it, it's brainwashing. Mm-hmm. And people get just absorbed in this stuff. And then they go home from work after they've looked at their phones throughout the day at work and go home and turn the television on, whatever channel. It doesn't have to be a news channel. And it's just piling on all the time. Mm-hmm. And then they go to sleep right there, or they're watching it in their bed, and they get up and start over the next day. And it just seems like, as I look around, the negativity isn't getting any lesser. The church isn't winning this battle. The church, not the building, the people. It seems, because everyone is so distracted, whether they're worrying about what's in the headlines or they're worrying about how they're feeling. They're sick, they have a headache, or their sciatic nerve is bothering them, or they just don't feel good, or they're afraid they're going to get sick. And that just has kind of been where my head's been at the last couple of days. Just trying to make sure that I'm thinking on the good things instead of feeling on the bad things.
Taking your thoughts captive.
Yeah, well, I mean, our thoughts should be through the Spirit, because you're going to feel in the flesh, like it or not. Mm-hmm. But you can't succumb to what you're feeling. You have to get past that.
Well, your feelings aren't reliable.
No, they're fickle, and they change. I don't feel good today. I could feel good tomorrow. Well, what changed? Perspective, level of pain, amount of medication, temperature. I mean, pick something, right? So that has an opportunity to change at any time. Mm-hmm. Truth doesn't change, so I have to focus on truth.
Right.
And anyway, that's just kind of what I've been thinking about the last few days.
Well, I think too, it's interesting, but if you're not even, you can totally feel fine, and then somebody can bring up something, and then you're like, oh, do I feel that way?
Right.
Your thoughts do drive so much of what you feel.
Mm-hmm. And your feelings drive a lot of your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Vice versa, yeah. So I think that's why the Bible constantly reminds us to be led by our spirit, not our flesh. That our flesh doesn't dictate what we think on.
Well, it's really hard, and I get it. I mean, I felt I'm still fighting feelings. That was a song back in the day. Who did that? It doesn't matter. It wasn't a good one. Not to talk about on a podcast for Christian people. So, you have to disregard. But how do you disregard your body screaming at you? You know what I mean? I get it. There's no condemnation with what I'm saying here. I mean, I've been there, am there, whatever you want to say. And you just, I don't know, we have to have the mind of Christ. We have to remind ourselves that he's overcome the world, and the same power that lives in us is the same power that raised Jesus from the dead. Mm-hmm. But practically applying that power to our situation when our gout hurts in our big toe, I mean, it's mind over matter.
Well, it's properly discerning the body.
I get that.
Yeah.
But the majority of us have lived with feelings our whole life. You put your thumb down.
Feelings don't come and go.
Well, you put your thumb down.
Feelings do come and go, but I'm saying it's not like you can just not have them.
Well, I'm saying you put your thumb down on the table and I hit it with a hammer, you're going to feel it.
Oh, yeah.
And we've lived that way our whole lives. We haven't been taught that, that's a real part of your existence, but it's not who you are. It's not the end of who you are.
Your identity.
Yeah, I mean, we have a spiritual identity. We're 99% spiritual and 1% flesh. But the flesh, we allow the flesh to rule everything. I'm just speaking in generalities here.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think it's a balance. You can't ignore your flesh, because I've tried that.
Yeah.
And you can't ignore your thoughts. I mean, they're with you all the time. Mm-hmm. You can renew your thoughts, but you can't ignore them. But you're a whole being. You can't ignore any one part. Spirit, flesh, soul. I'm not saying I know how to balance it. I'm saying it is a balancing act.
Right.
Because it's not wise to disregard any part.
Well, you were given the part, so it has to have value. Or, you know what I mean? You can't, you can't disregard it because it has to have value. God created it.
Right.
I mean, he made these fleshly tents for our spirits to reside in. Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird, but I ain't God. So, that's how he did it.
But it's, scripturally, it's constantly reminding us, take every thought captive, renew your mind to the obedience of Christ. But even thinking about that, to the obedience of Christ, it's not our obedience, it's his obedience. So when you renew your mind to the obedience of Christ, again, it's just reminding yourself that he was obedient unto death. It's like, even that is hard to wrap your mind around.
Right.
That it's not your own obedience, it's his.
That's the finished work.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you can be righteous and think that you're a piece of garbage.
Well, you shouldn't think that you're.
No, but what I'm saying is people will feel like they're garbage.
Do they feel it or do they think it?
Both. Because their feelings are telling them, this is what you are. This is what you are. This is the voice speaking to you. And the fact is, you're the righteousness of God through Jesus Christ. I mean, these are things that we just have not spent enough time learning because they have the church, the building, and you can't blame everything on them, but they didn't spend enough time teaching it to us.
Well,
So how do we overcome that? You overcome that with the truth. You have to keep going back to the Word.
well, that's our responsibility. Yeah, you can't blame the church for everything because
I wasn't trying to. I was saying they didn't teach it to us, but did they even know what to teach it to us?
well, that's what I'm
honestly?
saying. You know, it's our job to go to the Word, to dig into the Word. I mean, especially where we live, we have full access to the Word at all times.
Mhm.
So there's really no excuse other than taking the time, which again is going against your feelings because your feelings say roll over, hit the snooze button,
I want to watch this next episode.
whatever. And oh my goodness, the ladybug is back. It just came and landed right on you, just so you know.
That's the Holy Spirit.
No, it's a ladybug.
He's a gentleman.
She.
The Holy Spirit.
I'm not talking about the Holy Spirit being a she. I'm talking about the ladybug being a she.
The Holy Spirit was a she in the Shack book.
Oh, let's not go down that path.
I'm just saying. I don't agree with that necessarily because it said he's a gentleman. But I did like the way that they really got out there on that. It just broke a lot of paradigms, which sometimes I think is not such a bad thing. But back to your discussion about the ladybug or wherever you were going.
Well, the ladybug has lighted on you again.
They like me. The ladybugs like me.
What was I saying? I don't even know.
It started with something like, after 23 and a half years of marriage, I think you're the best or something like that.
No, that wasn't it.
Wasn't it? Okay.
I don't even know what I was saying. I've totally lost my...
Well, we were talking about the spirit. We were talking about the flesh. And then how you can't disregard them. And we have to renew our minds. And how we're the righteousness of God through Jesus Christ. And how we have to learn how to fix that because we ourselves and the church haven't done a good job at explaining those things to us. And even they may not understand it themselves.
Well, yeah. I can't come back to what I was on because I can't remember.
Well, I could change the topic and you wouldn't even know.
I know what we were talking about. I'm saying topic-wise. I can't remember what I was saying.
Oh, well, we are one flesh, but I can't discern you that well. In this, a lot of times I can, but at this moment, I'm not able to. So.
Threw you for a loop. Neither one of us can recall.
Yeah.
We're not tracking well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's a new year. You're seeing clients in their New Year's resolutions.
I hadn't discussed New Year's resolutions.
No resolutions
No.
with anybody?
I don't think anybody's making them anymore.
Really?
I think that's the thing of the past.
Wow.
Nope. I hadn't talked to a single person about resolutions. Believe it or not.
That's pretty interesting. Have people just given up?
People are just altogether different. We've talked about this before, but life is just different. You know, people are glad to start a new year. I've heard that several times, you know, glad that, but people are so preoccupied. And that's something we've talked about on a previous podcast about preoccupation, distraction. Well, even a few minutes ago, I do remember that you said that.
I got you distracted, and then you can't remember. Well, actually, it was a ladybug's fault. It was not me.
Yeah, it's still on you. But anyway, nobody has said anything to me about New Year's resolutions. It's almost like everyone is in survival, not goal setting. Does that make sense?
So they've given up.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to claim that.
Okay.
I just am saying, like, people are like, "Oh, we survived that one."
Right.
You know, glad that's over. Now we're starting a new one, but it's not that same sense that you used to get about a new year. Like
The fresh start.
well, I didn't want to say it that way. I can't put my finger on it. It's just that nobody is like that I've seen casting some great vision for this year. It's almost like there's a sense of
Foreboding.
like, oh,
What's next?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
It's like everybody's sort of holding their breath a little bit. Not necessarily. They're glad they survived last year. They're not sure what this year's going to hold. So everybody's just in a like, okay, well, we're glad that's over, but not sure what this year holds yet. So there's not that same sense of, I don't want to say excitement, but used to, you know, people would kind of come out of one year into the next with a sense of anticipation about what things they might have going on this new year, looking forward to it. Now it's different. People are not always thinking about what they might achieve. It's like, what will we have to overcome?
Paradigm shift.
It definitely is. You know, or that's what I get the sense of.
Right.
I don't hear people saying, oh, I'm looking forward to doing this year, or I've set these new goals or resolutions, or it's just kind of like, okay, we survived. Now just hold on because you never know what's around the corner.
So it worked.
Well, I guess if that's what they were hoping to achieve.
They achieved it. They thought it would happen, I think, back in 2001. But I think even after the collapse in 2008, I think it was literally shutting the country down and pouring fear into people for 24 plus months is what it took to really complete the transition.
I just don't see the same level of excitement, anticipation, you know, dreaming about things ahead, looking forward to things ahead. It's just a little bit of a sense of, oh my goodness, we survived, but, you know, it's just sort of that feeling of uncertainty people have, I think. I guess they feel like, well, if that could have happened and took us all by such shock and awe, then...
What's the next straw to break the next camel's back?
Right. And I hear a lot of comments about, is this ever going to go away? You know, so...
Again, they accomplished their goal.
Well,
So it's up to people like us to remind people that there's still good in the world. But there's not just good in the world, it's great in the world. And it's Jesus. And no matter what conspiracy theory that comes true this year, he doesn't change.
right.
Nor does his word.
The good news is still
It's still good news.
the good news.
Because you don't know whose life the good news will change.
Right.
It could be a 5-year-old in Sunday school nursery class, or it could be some 76-year-old man who decides he doesn't want to finish it without Jesus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a difference in, I don't know, it's weird. Well, it's weird to me. It probably wouldn't even be noticed by our children because they're not old enough to
remember the 80s.
You know what I mean?
Or the 90s.
Yeah, I just think they wouldn't maybe recognize so much of the difference.
Mm-hmm. Outside of us just telling them that it was different.
But in our case, I mean, I can speak for myself. In my case, who deals with the same people that I've been seeing for,
25 years.
Yeah. So it's not like people that I don't even know. It's people. It's definitely a shift in, I don't know, in everything. I just feel like everything is different.
In a negative fashion.
Well, I don't want to say that. That sounds terrible.
Well, it does sound terrible, but is it the truth?
Well, no, I think some things have changed for the better. I mean, people are maybe more aware of things that they weren't in the past and maybe more thoughtful about some things. So, I mean, there's always some good in it.
Mm-hmm.
But
sometimes the more you know, the harder it is to swallow the pill.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just different. People are just different.
So, do you think that is people's feelings driving them?
Mm-hmm.
It is. And what's the best way, in your opinion, we can combat some of that?
Renew our minds.
For ourselves and for others.
Yeah. Speak. I mean, faith speaks the word we should be speaking, because I think it goes back to as you think, you
so
speak.
You are, yeah.
And what you speak affects what you believe. So
I was at Target Christmas Eve, maybe, I don't remember. Whenever you sent me to Target, and it was like the wrong time to go to Target.
Yeah, it was Christmas Eve.
And it was on like 45 minutes to an hour away from home, and there's no easy way to get there without going through gobs of traffic. I wasn't really excited about going. But I went in, and it was a pretty easy experience. And as I was standing there waiting on the order that you had placed online, I don't know if I've told you that. I don't think I did. As I was standing there waiting for the last little bit of the stuff to come back to the buggy, there was a lady who was standing with her buggy pushed right against the wall there at the customer service desk, and she was waiting on someone in the restroom. Another lady came up in the same scenario. Had two women there with their full buggies, waiting with their buggies against the wall. And then another lady was on the little ride-around thing, but she needed to charge it. They were going to plug it in. She was willing to sit on it while it charged, but it had to be in a certain spot for the cord to reach the receptacle. Just so happened to be right where those two women with full buggies were standing. So the Target employee asked them, excuse me, ladies, can you just back up just a few steps? And they were not trying to be helpful, but at the same time, they were miffed that they had to move their buggies. And the lady on the ride around, she wasn't real excited because those women didn't want to move out of the way so she could. And it could have been a very tense. It could have gotten really tense really quick. But here I am. And one of the ladies said, the lady on the buggy said to the lady with the cart, "This is such a hard time of the year for me because everybody's busy and rude." And she was really talking about that lady who wouldn't get out of the way. She said, "But I told the Lord that I want to be better and I want to do better." So now she's kind of pulling back to herself. And I just couldn't stand it. I just walked right over there from me to you and said, "Well, that's good because you are his righteousness." And she looked at me like I had four heads. And I turned around and looked at Buggy 1 and Buggy 2. Oh, hang on just a minute. Jake, I'm talking about shopping carts. Okay, so I turned around to buggy 1 and buggy 2, and I said, do you know Jesus? And the lady shook her head like, what is happening? Buggy 2, do you know Jesus? Yes. I said, all 3 of you are the righteousness of God through Jesus Christ and what he did for you. And I said, so no matter if you're being rude or no matter if you're not having a good holiday preparation time, I said, it doesn't matter because you are righteous. And those women were just like flummoxed. The lady on the ride around, oh, I thought she was going to get up and dance. I'm not even exaggerating. The other 2 ladies were still probably Presbyterians or something, but they were kind of like, how's this guy talking about Jesus and Target and Starbucks? But the lady on the ride around, she got happy. She started praising the Lord, clapping, hollering. She was excited to be reminded that she was a righteousness of God through Jesus Christ. And what he did for her made her righteous, even though she didn't feel righteous.
Mm-hmm.
It made my Christmas Eve. That's why I had to go to Target on Christmas Eve. Been meaning to tell you that one. Glad I got to share it with you.
Oh, well, I'm glad I did you a favor. You didn't even tell me.
Thanks so much. So anyway, feelings and thoughts. I'm sure I'm not really conveying it the way I want to, but it's stirring around in there somewhere.
Well, maybe we can not be so consumed by what we feel and start, having more, I don't want to say control, but disciplined.
Okay.
Maybe more disciplined about our thought life.
Yeah.
To renew our mind to truth, to what is good, and
because we're very thoughtful about our feelings.
Oh yeah,
they run us.
Well, they can.
By and large, they can.
So I think it's a good reminder for us, to really be thinking about our thoughts and discipline our thoughts, our thought life, our thought patterns, to discipline our feelings, to not let them rule us, but to, not that you can always rule your feelings, but you definitely
keep them in check.
Yeah, can definitely keep them from just running you over.
Yeah. Well, good word. To prevent any further rabbit holes or Debbie Downer combo, we can bounce on that. How's that? All right. You have been listening to the Marriage Creative Podcast with Caleb and Carla Nelson.
Season 2.
Season 2. Episode 1. 2.1. Squeaky chair. Ladybugs. And more.
Oh, last season was goldfish. This
is the season of the ladybug.
The ladybug season.
Wow.
We went from goldfish to ladybug.
All right. You guys have a great day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Post and Gate. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Marriage Creative. Subscribe and click the notification icon so you can stay up to date with all things The Marriage Creative. To learn more about who we are and what we do, check us out on social media or go to themarriagecreative.com today.
But it does mean you need to realize that TikTok is a Chinese weapon against your well-being. It is. Hello. Hey, man. Hey, what's happening?